So I was watching a little bit of JD's OTRS Extra today, his live stream. Well, not actually live, but after it was live streamed. And of course, he takes these opportunities to talk about other stuff he doesn't, have a chance to talk about when he's like reviewing Raw, SmackDown, Dynamite, pay-per-views, you name it, or working at House of Glory. He doesn't have the chance to really get around to these items, these news items, if you will. So he takes the opportunity to record our live stream in today's case, these OTRS extras, to give his thoughts on some news items floating about and being reported. And if there's one thing that he and Alex Hicks have used, saying-wise, quotation-wise, in the past couple of months, when it comes to some WWE news, whether it's false, whether there's truth to it, or it's just a strong rumor that there's no real evidence of being true or not. If there's one saying that they both have used, and JD used it today, is where there's smoke, there's fire. And JD used this today to kind of look at all the situations that point at the idea that Vince McMahon could potentially be back in charge of creative, or at least have more of a say creatively than than he's had in a while, despite the fact that Triple H still has the final say in what happens, on camera, promo wise, match wise, booking wise, and all that. And look, I don't blame JD, I don't blame Alex, I don't blame Solomonster, I don't blame OTR Central or Wrestling with Regret. I don't blame any of them for feeling very suspect, if you will, very suspicious about what's going on. Because you have the rumor I talked about yesterday that was, basically made to be unfounded, which was a talent anonymously coming out and saying that they believed Vince was back in charge, although they couldn't be, totally sure, but it felt like it. Then you have the reports, of the possibility of us getting an Omos, Lesnar match at WrestleMania this year. And then according to JD, you got you got Lita returning in time for Mania. And then you got the reports that, from a personnel, producers, backstage agents kind of a point of view, that morale is down. And JD looks at all this as tons of smoke, emanating from all these different areas. And where all this smoke is coming from, there has to be some various fires burning, along with it. And here's the thing. Like I said, I don't blame JD for being, a little paranoid, a little unhinged when it comes to, the potential, reality of something happening that none of us want to see happen ever again. And that's Vince McMahon being back in control. I mean, he brings up the fact that, the reason morale, according from the perspective of a personnel production standpoint, is because of a sale of the company. Here's what I take away from that. Yes, JD can point out that nobody else, not even the talent, has spoken up, which feels very suspect, if you will, in his eyes, as to why they wouldn't say anything. And the way I look at it is maybe because they don't want to, because they probably believe that what the personnel is worried about is fruitless, basically. Is basically, what was the word that Daniel Bryan used one time when he was a heel? Fickle? Yeah, they probably look at what, the morale that the personnel, the producers have as being, fickle. Like their morale being down and being worried about potentially nothing, as of right now is, fickle. It's unnecessarily not needed, if you will. And, maybe that's true. I mean, if you go to a talent or various talents and you ask them how the morale is, they'll probably tell you the exact opposite. They'll probably tell you, hey, the morale's been up. We've been excited. We've been happy to come to work. We love it. And they'll probably tell you that with a straight face. Not, rolling their eyes or looking the other way, which would obviously mean they're not telling you the truth and stuff. or using ums and uhs and e's and everything, which would be another piece of evidence of them not telling you the truth, they'd probably tell you straight to the face, hey, morale's been great. We've been happy with what's going on now with the company. So they probably tell you the exact opposite. But again, I understand where people like, JD are coming from when it comes to hearing these kind of reports. And, and on top of that, you have a mock-up movie poster, one of many probably being displayed across, Los Angeles and Hollywood and Inglewood to help promote WrestleMania 39. And at the end of one of the posters, the one that somebody took a picture of with Roman Reigns on it, at the bottom of the poster, you have all these credits, like a movie poster credit and everything. And at the end, at the very bottom, at the end of that poster, you have the directorial credits being given to Vince McMahon, which again, a lot of people, even JD, would find very suspicious. And JD mentioned that people would tell him, oh, well, it's his company. Of course he's going to get directorial credit. Even if he's not involved, of course he's going to get credit. Here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. JD is one of those guys that's a longtime fan that has seen wrestling have its ups and downs. Has seen it go through a renaissance, has seen it go through its Armageddons, you name it. He's seen it go through the bad, the good, the in-between. And he's also seen it evolve into, an opportunity where it could be taken seriously as a sport. Like, yes, it is choreographed. Yes, the results are pretty much already booked and ready to go. They're in the can. But at the end of the day, what he wants to see that produces it from a ring perspective, is the athleticism. He wants the legitimacy of a pro wrestling match, despite, knowing what the result could be or potentially could not be coming out of it. And when he sees things that remind him of somebody that doesn't love wrestling, professional wrestling, rearing its ugly head, rearing their ugly heads, if you will, that makes him very, very very suspectable of something not totally on the ball. And look, you could, people like JD and others could have their opinions on whether or not, they feel that there is something more to the situation than what's being led on. I mean, the fact that he even looked at the fact that Sean Ross Sapp, through a Patreon paywall, by the way, which isn't much to pay sometimes, depending on what you go with, is hiding information that, is big. And he should, be able to share it freely with everybody else. Here's the thing, though, the difference between the two. Sean Ross Sapp, and JD has admitted this as well, Sean Ross Sapp has legitimate sources within the company. He has legitimate sources. And, and here's the thing. If he puts the information behind a paywall, it's probably because it's information that his legitimate sources don't want out unless maybe he gets some kind of revenue that he shares with them. You can't tell me that Sean Ross Sapp, people like him, people like Bill Apter, people like Dave Meltzer, Brian Alvarez, Mike Johnson, a PW Insider, Andrew Zarian of the Madman Podcast, and many others that have sources within the company. You cannot tell me that if they put up paywalls on Patreon, for people to access, news and information from, to kind of get a better idea of what to expect or what was going on, with this and that and whatever, you can't tell me that they don't do that without agreeing to give their source, a piece of the financial pie that they get from it, or the financial revenue. Because they do. You can't have some kind of an agreement, or not agreement, but you can't have some kind of source within a company like WWE giving you this kind of information without some kind of an agreement that says, hey, you help me out, I'll give you a piece of the revenue. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me that that's not happening, because it is. It is happening. And that's a fact. That is a fact that you and I know very well. And I mean, it's reality, man. It's a reality of business, period. No matter how you view it. No matter how you view it, it is a reality of business, period. Okay? It is a reality of business, period. So for Sean Ross Sapp to put it behind a paywall, he's not doing that for his own selfish reasons. He's doing that to not only contribute to, the site, the company he works for, that being Fightful, the business he works for, that being Fightful, but he's also doing it to give revenue to his source in exchange for giving him the information. That's why he does the paywalls. And look, I agree, not everybody likes the idea. Like I was saying before the interruption there, I mean, yeah, he does, people like him do that so that, they can at least give some revenue to those that are giving them the sources that obviously they're not supposed to leak out. But again, I understand, JD, where he's coming from and saying, hey, with information as big as, potentially Vince coming back into creative, you shouldn't hide that behind a paywall. I get that. I understand that. We all do. We all legitimately do. But here's the thing. He wanted to make sure, Sean, as well as these other sources, Wade Keller and all of them, wanted to make sure whether or not it has some truth. And it didn't. And all that. But again, I understand. I know I'm repeating myself here, but I get it. I understand, and I know, and I feel and I know where they're coming from. But here's the thing. Just because Triple H is going to potentially book Brock and Omos in a match at WrestleMania. Just because Lita is back, and potentially Trish Stratus later. Just because they're coming back. Just because some backstage personnel, producers, agents are saying morale is down. Just because Vince McMahon's name is directly credited in a mock-up movie poster and all that. And just because one talent, which, again, this was unfounded, basically turned out to be false, believed that Vince could be back in charge. Just because, all of that, is very sus, if you will, in the eyes of people like JD, in the eyes of people like Alex, in the eyes of people like Jason Solomon and everybody else I've mentioned, doesn't mean diddly crap. Okay? It doesn't mean diddly crap. Basically, what it is that they are allowing to happen, and I've mentioned it yesterday, is they're letting the fear and the paranoia get the best of them. They're letting the fear and the paranoia get the best of them. And because they're letting it get the best of them, guess what's happening? They're letting themselves be made fools of. This is why everybody on social media, here on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Tumblr, on OnlyFans, you name it. This is why people call them out and saying that they are nothing but marks. This is why people are calling them out and saying, oh, well, you're just an AEW suck-up and everything. Or you're just a Tony Khan suck-up and all that. Because they are letting their fears. They are letting the fears and the paranoia about what Vince did in the past when he was running things in WWE, get the best of them. Yes, Vince wants $9 billion for his company. Yes, I admit that's a high price that, hey, I'll even say it, the Saudis would probably be the only ones to get it. But as I've mentioned before, who's to say this Saudi Arabia PFI group aren't totally different than the other Saudi Arabia people? I mean, they could be more modernized, more with it than you can even want to admit to, that they may even say Vince's asking price is ridiculous and there ain't no way they're paying it. And even if they do pay it, there ain't no way they're going to want Vince around because they like Paul Levesque instead. You don't know, what that group could do. All right? You don't know that. You don't know that whatsoever. So for them to let their paranoia and their fear get the best of them, well, they're going to come out and pretty much, in their own opinion, which they have a right to, which is why I am a fan, I am a subscriber, I am a follower of them, here on YouTube and all the social media platforms. But if they're going to let the fear and paranoia get the best of them, it's just going to keep making them look like fools and look idiotic and basically make them the pun And the pun and the joke of everybody in the IWC and the YWC. So to me, look, you can have your opinions and everything. That's fine. You have a right to do that. But don't let your trauma, don't let your fear, don't let your paranoia get the best of you. Because if you let it get the best of you, it's not going to make you look good in the end. And anybody you work with in the future is not going to want to work with you anymore. So you got to be careful about what you do. I mean, JD apparently is going to be working with what? My Mother's Basement now, starting next week or something. He's going to be working with them, or at least have an association with them. Do you think they're going to want to deal with him if he keeps, blabbing off, stuff that may not have any legitimate truth to it? No, they're not going to want to deal with him. They're not going to want to deal with him whatsoever. They're going to want to be rid of him. Do you think any other potential wrestling interview that JustAlyx could get in the future will want to have anything to do with him if he keeps blabbing off the mouth of, this and that without any real evidence? No. No, they won't. So what they need to do is be careful about what they say. They need to be careful about what they say and how they present it. Because I guarantee you what's going to happen is someone's going to call them out, someone that might have more power than them, and basically suggest to them that when you report this kind of stuff, you need to start off with, this is my opinion. This is what I see, and if you don't agree with it, that's fine. That's all they're going to probably ask of them, and they need to be ready for that. They need to be ready for that. But yeah, apparently getting back on topic here with what JD is saying, apparently he believes that where there's smoke, there's fire. And with everything that has been reported through various sites and everything, either basically proven to be false, not true, maybe, kind of rumored and all that, or just from the views of other people that, probably have different views, whose views are probably different from, let's say, the talent and everything. Look, for JD to say that there's, to say that there's various fires, but these various smokes and everything, because there's got to be some truth, just because there's stuff like that out there doesn't mean there's any legitimate backing behind it, any legitimate truth. I mean, yes, is Vince McMahon going to get credited on a movie poster? Yes. Why? As unexcusable as JD puts it, it's because as unexcusable as JD says it is, it's the truth. It's his company. It's basically like if Tony Khan got double or nothing to be in Hollywood, and he got double or nothing to be at, let's say, the Staples Center, not the Kia Forum, but the Staples Center, all right? Or the Crypto Center, whatever it's called now, Crypto Center. Let's say he got it there, and he wanted to go with a Hollywood theme, okay? He wanted to go with a Hollywood theme. And they tried to do the same stuff. Do you think JD would get upset if, let's say, Tony Khan's name was in the director's chair instead of, let's say, Kenny Omega's, or let's say John Moxley, or whoever gets put in the creative to take the stress off Tony? Do you think he'll get upset if Tony Khan's name's there? No, he won't. Because one, Tony's still new to the business, but do you think he might say something if Tony, was put in the director's chair for the event? Especially if he had nothing to do with it creatively? No, maybe he wouldn't, maybe he would, I don't know. But the reason Tony Khan would be put there is because it's his company. So he's going to be put in that directorial chair. Just like with the Ring of Honor, Supercard of Honor coming up in Los Angeles, right? Let's say they go with a Hollywood theme. What's going to happen there? They're going to do mock-up movie posters with, let's say, Claudio on one poster and whoever he's defending against on another. And it says on the bottom, directed by Tony Khan, even though creatively Tony Khan could have nothing really to do with Ring of Honor Supercard. Do you think that's fair to whoever creatively is booking the show? No, it's not. But why is Tony credited? Because Ring of Honor is his company now, not Sinclair Broadcasting or anything like that. It's Tony Khan's. So him getting directorial credit would be because it's his company, whether he's creatively running things or not. And the same goes, as much as we hate to say it, for Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is not creatively running things right now. He may make some suggestions, and Triple H, as I mentioned yesterday, may make certain matches happen that he knows Vince would like to keep him off his back, to keep Vince off his back and out of creative. I will admit that Triple H probably does that. But Vince McMahon's going to get credit because it's his company. End of discussion. It's kind of like with, let's say, the NFL. Let's say the Super Bowl comes back to SoFi Stadium and they want to give it a Hollywood thing. All right? They want to give it a Hollywood thing. Do you not think they won't put on the director's chair, directed by Roger Goodell or directed by Vince Lombardi, even though Vince Lombardi's not here anymore? Among the living? Do you think they won't do that? If they put up a mock-up poster? Of course they would. Of course they would. Because one, Goodell's the commissioner, and two, Lombardi is who the trophy is named after. So you do not think they wouldn't do that? Of course they would. The point that I'm getting at, folks, is it doesn't matter if Vince McMahon's putting that giving directorial credit in a mock-up movie poster. It shouldn't matter because they're only doing it because it's his company. And look, I get, and I like I've said, I get it. JD has seen everything, go from good to bad, in between and all that under Vince McMahon. And the last thing he wants is any kind of suspicious clue that Vince could potentially creatively be back. He doesn't want that because we are now in an era where to him it's more about, I know what the outcome could be, I know what the decision could be, but I want a good athletic pro wrestling match to basically be the result of whatever booking decision they come up with. That's the era we're in right now, and that's the era he wants to see. I mean, to him, if he had his way, Omos wouldn't even be in WWE right now, or Omos might be in NXT, mostly NXT level up until he gets better. That's if JD had his way. And again, I don't blame JD for feeling this way. I don't blame Alex for feeling this way. I don't blame anybody. But just because, as JD puts it, there's fire to there's various fires to these various smokes, of news stories that have come out, false and not true or whatever, doesn't mean they're going to go ablaze. It doesn't mean it. And what JD, what Alex, what Solomonster, what everybody I've mentioned already, I'm going to say this in closing. I get where you guys are coming from. I understand the fear. I understand the paranoia, the trepidation, but don't let it get to you. Don't let it be the one that controls your life or how you think as a wrestling fan. Put it aside. Say no. Basically say no. I'm not going to let you get to me. I'm not going to let you get to me. I'm not going to let you get to me. You are out of here. I'm only going to think positive. I'm not going to let this fear get to me. That's what you need to do. Because as I said before, I'll say it again. If you don't do that, it's going to keep making you the running butt of jokes in the eyes of a lot of fans. And you do not want that. Especially fans of the IWC and YWC that follow you strongly and support you strongly. It's going to make you the brunt of all the jokes and memes and all that. And you do not need that. You do not deserve that. So if I was you guys, just keep your fear and paranoia down. Don't let it get to you. And basically think positive. And don't think positive I'm positive Vince is going to be back. No. Think positive like, okay, this is just speculation. It's just rumors. I'm not gonna feed into it. I'm gonna look at the good. And that's all you need to do. That's all you need to do. But give me your guys' thoughts, all right? All right, guys, let me know what your thoughts are. How do you feel about all this? Do you think people like JD and JustAlyx and Solomonster and everybody I've mentioned are making a big ado about nothing? Or do you think maybe they do have a point that there might be some smoke to some of these fires that might be just little embers that are burning but soon would be extinguished? Let me know what your thoughts are. Comment down below. You will get an audio version of this for the BW Roses Discussions podcast. And until next time, guys, I'll talk to y'all later.